Okay. Remind me what sport you were playing this summer?
I was on camping trips,
Oh,
but
camping.
ultimate
Oh, yeah.
in the spring.
Yeah. How'd your ultimate season go?
Good. We won state.
Nice. Congrats. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
The Edina program is very strong.
Nice. And I have a gift for you.
Oh,
To keep you
yes.
well hydrated.
Thank you.
Future sporting events. Yeah, well, time well spent.
It's good to be back here though.
Yeah.
Final.
Yeah, definitely.
Played ultimate a little bit in college.
Yeah.
And our team was so bad that the opposing team, their best player had a cast on his arm.
Okay.
Oh
And
my.
they still like totally hit our butts.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, their best player is impaired. And we still can't even do it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a complete range of like programs that are just starting out. It's like such a growing sport.
Yeah.
We run into plenty of that.
It's a cool idea though, and it's so simple to like start.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love it. And like, it's so easy to just like play at a park or like with some friends or
Yeah,
everyone kind of seems to know it.
yeah, it's just your damn thing.
Right.
So you're-
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you play frisbee golf then too?
I know a lot of people who do. I personally don't really, never really got into it, but
That seems like it's gotten real like competitive lately, like there's like people who are like getting real professional.
yeah,
about it.
it's also growing and becoming very competitive, I think.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
like specific. frisbee,
Oh, yeah,
specific
yeah,
stuff
like-
with-
I've seen just like they have like their bag with like the 10 different,
People
yeah.
have like rolling bags now.
oh man, I haven't seen that yet, but that's funny. I'm not surprised.
Okay.
Is it like a high school team or?
It's high school. We're not
Okay.
like a
How are you?
Good,
Good. How are you doing?
thank you. Hey, how are you? Good, how are you?
doing well.
So we're
there again?
yes. So then you get to be at the head. Anna, you get a little bit more flexibility.
Right.
So for the natural areas map, where is that hiding?
We just go to, I don't see where it's in there. Something like the parks and trails, but it might be in there.
I think that was up there story map.
Oh, yeah, we don't like that.
That's tricky.
If you just go to the main, like.
Yeah.
So how's the
Yeah.
summer going?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. Yeah, a few different trips.
So you can go
and like
Let's do about,
it's like a whole other
Yeah,
life.
this is
you know,
probably the
it's
straightest
good to
way.
get away from
Yeah.
all of this for a little while.
Where did you go?
My main trip was a canoeing trip on
Awesome.
shores, so that was very fun. We managed to avoid the fires for the most part.
That's
so.
good, that's good, yeah.
But you did have issues about the smoke.
So like we were early enough in the season that most of it hadn't started, but like by like the second half of our trip, we were on the Canadian border. We could see the smoke from some of the Canadian fires. And then as we were like the final few days, we like were passed through a entry point and like learned that some areas that like we had been through like a week ago were now on fire. And it was like a weird,
Yeah.
like, that's a weird feeling to know that.
okay.
So you went there for a long time, like.
It was 30 nights.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
impressive.
And yeah, normally the trip would be like into, it's called the Crownlands, which is basically north of Quetico, which is the
Mm.
Canadian version of Boundary Waters. But with border closure, we were stuck in Boundary
But
Waters.
it's like somebody is monitoring it or not? Difficult, right? That's
The
why-
trip, you mean, or the
No,
fires?
like the crossing to Canada.
Well,
Like,
I
because-
mean,
Because in that, no, because I know that's very pristine, no, so it's not that easy to.
it's, if we had like, you definitely could just go across, but, on one of my other trips it was 2 years ago, we, were in Quetico and like a ranger came up and asked for our permit and
Mm,
so they have people out there.
okay,
So it's
yeah.
basically, if you could do it
Yeah, but. you
and
don't
hope
want to
that
get
a
caught.
ranger doesn't show up at your campsite and ask you for the permit.
Wow, so it was nice, a long time,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah, because you were disconnected completely.
Yep, nothing. Just, it was 6 of us and that was it. Yeah.
Where else did you go?
So.
Then I had like it was like a junior counselor at a family camp that I went to. Also, it was like,
So
it's
I'm
outside of
expecting
Ely.
folks to
So.
be here in person.
Yeah, that's, sorry, that's like a town just south of the Boundary Waters.
I see.
Up in that area still.
John, I think he wasn't coming.
Yeah.
Okay,
How about you? What have you been up to?
okay.
I went to Florida for like a
Um,
and I've been like teaching
Might
10.
not be here.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might be deployed.
Yeah, that's basically what
Yeah,
I'm.
Yeah.
okay.
Are you doing this another year?
No, not really.
I was planning on it, but I like did the first part of the application,
Yeah.
but then all of the interviews
Oh, they
were during, when I was gone.
Yeah.
And I emailed MJ and I was like, hey, can I make this up? And she was like, sorry. So I would have done it, but.
Yes. Oh, okay. During the project.
Say that again?
During project.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely look into it. Is that what, like, what do you, when do you meet? Is this the,
We meet in the morning, kind of.
Okay, what morning?
But like, it's 7:45 to 8:30 and it's on.
Wednesdays?
Yeah.
Oh, it was good.
I'm a
Yeah.
jazz fan on
Going to get
Wednesdays.
coffee.
Oh, really?
Well, maybe it'll be different this year, I don't know. I'll look into it.
I mean, I think about.
Are you ready for school?
Farmers market, it's a lot to ask.
Well, I think it'll be nice to like,
Yeah.
I guess hopefully it stays 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And like, I think it'll be good to finally be
Based on the camera.
back to that,
Yeah.
but also.
He said he's
I
also
don't think
going
it's
to.
cool.
Just one feature and implementation.
Are you looking at colleges now?
Yeah.
I'm so behind on that now. God.
I mean, I think you have like I've had like so much free time and I just haven't done.
Okay. Oh, yeah, at least I have it. It's a little easier on my conscience
Yeah.
that way.
Sessions with our impact.
Are you gonna go to the green business recognition?
So that would be another way.
I can't, I'm actually out of town, or what time is it?
It did Tuesday.
But they will never.
Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Good.
It's not like.
All right, so this is for you. I don't have anything for you just because I happen to have this. It only comes in women, so. And you may not like it and you can do whatever you want with it, but.
Hi, Michelle, how are you? How was that?
With the market, it was fine.
I got something for them.
Awesome.
Aw, thank you so much.
So yeah, I don't have any shirts that are missed.
Last guy.
Something more. Not that healthy.
Oh, that's good.
Some healthy and not so healthy.
I just had like a, Tom bought me a empanada at the, I have a little gut rot.
Was it good?
Was it worth it? Yeah.
I don't know, like there was an egg in it. I'm like, oh, what's this? And then I've never had an empanada, so I don't know. It was good. But it was all the candy that I
Hi,
was.
Eduardo.
That's the,
How are you?
that might have given me the gut rot. I don't think it was that bad.
Was it good? Empanada?
I think it was. I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to because I've never had one.
Hey, Bayardo, how are you?
But it was good to have food.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, let's take a little break.
Oh, yeah.
You got to not have to go for the whole time.
Feels good.
We had a volunteer who came
Oh, that's great.
from, I think.
Hi, how are you doing? Good. So Hilda, we're at 7, but I think we should give it another minute or two.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Or you're probably not the last one walking in, right?
Yeah, they're,
Tom's coming.
Perfect.
don't stay outside.
You went also to the market now?
Hey there,
Greetings.
how you doing?
Good.
Got your coffee. Oh, and it's compostable.
Didn't you all been together? It's terrible.
You guys doing carpool?
No.
Huh? I left at 5. As soon as it's done, it's like, I'm out.
Oh, that's, I know, we were all coming at different times, actually.
I look close. So is you.
Hi.
Aye.
Oh, Grace,
Yes.
I was thinking, a couple years back, we had named like tents.
I think we can definitely bring those back. Yeah.
Good idea.
Thanks, because
They're just little pieces of cardboard folded in half.
Yeah.
Fancy.
just pieces of paper, we can all write our own.
Air quality here, but.
Oh. Why can't I bring it? Oh, besides this thing. It's been a while.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
the market? No.
Pardon?
Were you masking the market? No.
No, only when, going into the building that was there. Just, yeah, no, people were. But a lot, I mean, I'm amazed so many people have masks on, just
Yeah, they're
walking around.
So Tom didn't have an empanada.
But
He
don't
was
you
talking
okay?
about the empanada.
The what?
He was talking about the empanada.
And I told her that I'd get wrapped, but I think it was from all the candy I ate, not the empanada.
Oh, I brought some more.
Did you have two? One for me or? I was gonna,
Those are not for me.
oh, wait, what? What, what? Oh. I think.
Can we start?
All right. Are you ready?
We have quorum, right?
Yes, we have form.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to start the recording. And it is 7:02.
Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome to the 12th of August meeting of the Energy and Environment Commission. We are meeting in person at the Ghana City Hall, but the following, no, I don't think there's anybody participating remotely. Do we have anything remotely? No.
No.
So to participant in community comments, residents must attend our meeting in person. Residents also have the option of submitting a commission correspondence form online. Welcome to those watching this meeting remotely. Let's get started. So our first item of the agenda is a call to order. Sorry, the roll call. So can you do the roll call, Grace, please?
Yes. Commissioner DeConne, Commissioner Haugen, Commissioner Haran,
Here.
Commissioner Hovanek,
Here.
Commissioner Lancis,
Here.
Commissioner Lukens,
Here.
Chair Martinez,
Here.
Commissioner Ratan, and Commissioner Tessman,
Here.
Commissioner Mans,
Here.
Commissioner Martinez.
Here.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Grace. So item number 3 will be the approval of the meeting agenda. So does anybody has any comment on the agenda? So can we make a motion?
Second.
Michelle? Can you do it on the second?
Great.
So can you do the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Haran,
Here. Or I.
Commissioner Hovanek,
Aye.
Commissioner Lancis,
Aye.
Commissioner Lukens,
Aye.
Chair Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Tessman.
Aye.
Thank you, Grace. So item number 4 is the approval of the meeting minutes of our July meeting. So does anybody have any observation or comments on the minutes? So can we do our motion?
Sorry.
All right.
So can you do the roll call, Grace, please?
Yes. Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Hovanek,
Aye.
Commissioner Lancis,
Aye.
Commissioner Lukens,
Aye.
Chair Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Tessman.
Aye.
Thank you, Grace. So in our next item of the agenda is a special recognition and precipitation. And Jessica Wilson from she's going to give us a water resources update. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you so much for giving me some time at your meeting. I'm Jessica Wilson. I'm in the engineering department. I'm the water resources coordinator, and I've been with the city for about 6 years. And I have a special guest here too. Tessa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name's Tessa Rugg. I'm bit of background on me. I'm currently from Washington State, but I'm doing grad school at the University of Minnesota for landscape architecture right now. So I just finished my first year and interned for Justice Center for Water Resources. So I'm really interested in stormwater and the stormwater permit and how that interacts with different local and state entities.
Yeah, and Tessa worked on a natural area sorting map that she's gonna walk you through kind of at the end here, so. So I have just a handful of slides here to give you a quick overview of the current activity with water resources. The first couple times I did this, I tried to kind of like bring everybody along with like what stormwater management is. I'm not doing that today. I'm just kind of giving you quick pulses of things that are going on. And then after that, we can go wherever the conversation goes if people want to dig deeper on something. So this is just a quick pulse on what's going on. And then we can go down whatever path. Straight. All right, cool, thanks. Next slide, please. All right, so water resources management, what is under that purview? I grouped that into several buckets, and a lot of these kind of overlap or impact each other, but my best kind of grouping of these is flooding and drainage, lakes, ponds, creeks, and wetlands, or surface water, groundwater, and then pollution prevention and community engagement. And then we have this overarching plan, our comprehensive water resources management plan, which guides our flooding, drainage, and clean water work that we do. This is a required component of Chapter 7 of the comprehensive plan. So it's required by state law to have this water resources plan. It gets updated about every 10 years, and it's a component of that greater comprehensive plan. That greater comprehensive plan doesn't get approved unless has an approved comprehensive water resources management plan supporting it. So what is that? We talk about runoff management, we talk about flood control and clean water. In this latest 2018 version, we committed to developing a flood risk reduction strategy and a clean water strategy, and updates on both of those things. So our flood risk reduction strategy, we had a task force, and a former commissioner Richard Dancer was served on that task force. And that was a group that put in a lot of time and energy in 2019 and 2020 to help us get to this flood risk reduction strategy. Here's kind of the big outcomes of the full report if you want to take a look at it. We looked at what is contributing to flood risk in Edina. We redefined what risk is, and we defined kind of what flooding means. It can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And we define it as flooding inside of a primary structure. Sometimes we get calls like a path is flooded or my yard is flooded. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about houses that flood. And you'll notice that in the way that we define what flood risk is, there's 3 factors: climate, exposure, and vulnerability. And climate is a big one, and I know this group knows a lot about that. Drivers of increasing flood risk, climate change is intentionally larger here because it is the lead driver of increasing flood risk in the city of Edina. We know flooding is getting more intense and worse as time goes on, mostly because of that. And then other things that matter, but just less so than climate change. Aging infrastructure. Edina was developed in the 50s and 60s mostly, and we had a different understanding of risk and a different understanding of climate in the 50s and 60s. Well-drained landscapes. People are connecting into our system and adding drainage all the time to make land more usable, and then imperviousness. People were surprised to see what this one at the end, and it's just because it dwarfs in comparison to these other factors that are really driving it. So what is our service at a city standpoint? This is how we deliver our flood protection services through infrastructure, through emergency services. This is like helping rescue people or respond in a crisis. Regulation, this is like our building permits. If someone wants to redevelop a structure, we might require them to elevate their structure, or we're going to require them to manage their stormwater coming off the site so they don't make flooding worse for somebody else. And then outreach and engagement. Next slide. We have a couple tools for that outreach and engagement that we've developed as a result of this flood risk reduction strategy. And this first one, our interactive flood risk map. This is just like any Google map where you can type in any address in Edina and it would search, and then you could see the inundation or the flood area related to that structure. And to have a flood map like this publicly available and searchable like this is still pretty unique. When we first were putting it out there, people were like, well, aren't you gonna get a lot of complaints? And is that gonna be like, are people gonna be really anxious about that information being out there? And really, we hear a lot of feedback that people are really glad that that information is available. And we think people should be aware of that too. That's kind of step one in reducing your own exposure and vulnerability is understanding risk. So that information is out there. You guys can check it out for any property. The other thing we have is actions for flood resilient homes. So fact sheets. We get calls where people are looking for advice or support on reducing their own exposure or vulnerability to flooding. So there's questions about sump pumps, about some ejectors, about backflow preventers, rain gardens, about wet flood proofing or dry flood proofing. We have some guidance on all of those things too on our website. Next slide. Thank you. All right. It's hard to present and like freeze come up. I sound out of breath. Just trying to catch up. Okay. All right. So I want to just bring you through some other just highlight projects. And there's a lot to say about each of these, but again, I'm just going to kind of give you a quick touch on all of them, and then we can go deeper on anyone that you want to. The Morningside Flood Infrastructure Project. This is the first project that we've taken on after the flood risk reduction strategy was adopted in April of 2020. So under our new strategy, this is our first go at a major capital investment. And this one we're really focusing on that infrastructure area of work and then also our outreach and engagement. And we have a meeting next week, Tuesday, August 17th at Weber Park, where we're bringing our first 30% complete design to the neighborhood. So for the last 18 months, we've been engaging with the neighborhood on, what would a flood infrastructure project look like here? In an urban setting, there are no easy answers. So there's some trade-offs that are made, particularly with tree removal in the Weber Woods area is the big one here. But I encourage you, anyone can come and give us feedback on that too. We'll also post those concept plans on our website, our project webpage there, and we'll take comments whenever, but the sooner the better. Next one, clean water strategy. This is the next one on the docket. So we worked through our flood risk reduction strategy, and we feel really good about what we were able to accomplish with that one. I'm really proud of that. Now we're going to embark on a clean water strategy. And that's kind of happening now. We're scoping that out now, and we'll work on that through 2022. And Lake Cornelia is kind of the pilot or the case study area for that one. We didn't wait to start doing projects and work there, but the clean water strategy is kind of like a strategic and planning style thing, but we're still already working on projects. Highland Creek Watershed District did a study in 2019 and helped define the sources of pollution there, which helps us kind of figure out what potential projects could make a difference there. Please. So here's some, the Watershed District is leading a lot of these capital projects and partnering with the City of Edina. They have their own project webpage where they describe kind of everything we know about how it got there, what the major contributors are, how much we have to reduce pollution by to meet our goals, and then proposes some potential projects. Next slide, please. So this is what's already.
Can I ask a question? So how do you work with the 9 Mile district? Because like the lakes are part of their watershed or no?
Yeah, so about 2/3 of the City of Edina is in the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District, and they're a special district that overlays the City of Edina. So I wouldn't say that like one or the other like owns or operates the lakes. We kind of work together in various things. So we're the landowner, but they do a lot of like monitoring and planning. They have rules. So if someone wanted to build a new house, there's City of Edina rules and there's Watershed District rules. So they have their own rules and their own funding source. You on your tax statement get says 9 Mile Creek Watershed District or Minnehaha Creek Watershed District. You pay taxes into that special overlaying district. But yeah, we have agreements on virtually every effort we do, and we have really great relationships with our watershed districts. Consider them partners, and we work together. So we have a capital project that's we're about ready to put out for bid. Actually, we might have already opened bids on the Frozen Park Stormwater Filtration BMP, and that's going to filter phosphorus out of water as it goes from the swimming pool pond near the Aquatic Center into North Lake Cornelia. We expect to break ground on that this fall. We did an in-lake alum treatment in May of 2020, and it's an application of alum that grabs onto phosphorus particles and ties them up so that algae can't use those as fuel to grow. Goldfish and park management, there's a lot of goldfish in Lake Cornelia, thousands. And they came from someone putting koi or goldfish into the lake at some point, probably thought they were doing a really clean thing. And it's caused a huge water quality problem. So there was actually a Minnesota Battle story on it. I think it aired maybe a month ago now, so you can take a look at that. We did a shoreline restoration project in 2020 on the city-owned parts of the South Cornelia basin, and there's a trail there, so you can walk through there. And then we do invasive plant weed control every year. We've done that for 5 years, maybe 6 years. I'd have to look back. And we are seeing that it's getting better every year. We don't expect that to completely go away, but we're going to try our best to reduce its impact. Please. Other things that we're doing for stormwater, this is also related to Lake Cornelia. This is Bristol and Maple Park. So this is just west of France Avenue, a block or two. And this is the people that live right around here call this Stitch Park. It's this really like low bowl park that already serves a stormwater function. But we are working with the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District to see if we can deepen that and make it work harder for stormwater. It's already serving that purpose, but can we have it do even more for water quality and provide some flood risk reduction benefit at the same time? So we have been engaging with this neighborhood for the last few months over the summer. And this September, we plan to bring our concept design to City Council to see and essentially ask, like, City, do you want to officially partner with the Watershed District on a project? We think this is what it would look like. And then it would probably be constructed in 2022. Please. Arrowhead Lake and Indian Head Lake. So with Lake Cornelia and Lake Edina, the Watershed District went through a big study effort. We're going to do that same, they're doing that same thing for Arrowhead Lake and Indian Head Lake. These are 2 landlocked lakes in the southwest portion of the city. Landlocked means there's no outlet for that water. The only way it leaves is either soaking into the ground or evaporating. Or if we like manually pump it out, if there's been like rain on rain on rain, like in 2019, which we had to do for those lakes to protect houses from flooding. So there's a water quality study going on right now. Survey recently went out to all the owners, and we're really just digging into the potential things we could do to manage phosphorus there. We're also working on lake level management plans. 2014 to 2019 was a string of really, really wet years, and 2019 was a record-breaking wet year. And in a lake without an outlet, the only way, water soaking into the ground, which was really challenging after years and years of it being really wet. The groundwater is pretty full, and the evaporation is just not keeping up with all the rain that we had. So we're looking at some plans for, how do we more proactively measure or manage this water level so that we don't have water invasives, which happened in 2018. Melody Lake shoreline restoration. So this is another one where in the Melody Lake neighborhood, we're doing a big capital reinvestment in the streets. And so while we're there, we're also going to reinvest in this piece of park property. Right now, well, not now, before the project started, it was turf and buckthorn and reed canary grass, which is also a very undesirable shoreline plant. And so we're moving the turf and replanting that entire thing with native plants and adding a little like rock access that you could launch a boat from or you could fish from. We engaged the neighborhood and said, we can do something that's, a 30-foot wide buffer, or we can do the entire thing as a native buffer. What's your preference? And they overwhelmingly wanted the entire thing to be restored back to native plants. So that's what we're going to do. Lakes, ponds, creeks, and wetlands is kind of a catch-all. We do aquatic vegetation management. We're mainly trying to reduce invasive curly-leaf pondweed just because of the life cycle of that plant. It tends to start growing really early in the year, even under the ice. That plant can start to grow long before native plants grow, so it outcompetes native plants. And then it dies off in the middle of summer. And then you get this big boost of nutrients as those plants decay, and it leads to algae blooms. It's kind of off cycle from native plants. So not only does it feed them to it, it then creates this algae bloom midsummer. So managing curly leaf convicts specifically is a water quality strategy. We think that aquatic plants are good and we encourage them, but we want them to be the right kind, the native variety. And then you might have seen some news blasts already this summer about some harmful algal blooms in Lake Cornelia, Lake Edina, and Mirror Lake. They could be happening in other places where we just aren't measuring that. So it's best just when in doubt to stay out. In August and September are typically the worst times for that. It's hot, it's dry, the water's not moving very much. Prime recipe for growing cyanobacteria or blue-green algae. And then we have some lake associations that we work with to do that vegetation management or other services that they can request and may or may not be eligible for. We have a policy that describes that. All right, groundwater, we have an interactive map that shows where private wells are located throughout the city. A lot of developments were done before city water was available. So we actually have thousands of wells in the city of Edina, of close to 3,700 wells, which I was kind of surprised when we first started to really inventory and map these. And we have about 1,000 that we don't know the status of, if they're sealed or not sealed. We do have a policy to help people deal with them when they come across them with redevelopment projects or otherwise. By state law, you have to seal a well that is unused or inactive or in poor condition. And oftentimes when people are doing redevelopment projects, that's when they come across them. And surprisingly, a lot of people don't know if they have a private well. So we offer those reviews too. As people come through the permit process, we automatically do a review. And there's been many, many cases where we've been like, oh, by the way, you've got this thing, you got to look for it, you got to deal with it. Kudos to Zuli Marquez, who does our permit review. She's definitely caught and helped people deal with them appropriately before new houses are built, and then you lose that chance for another 100 years. We had some grants in 2020 that was kind of pass-through funding from the Department of Health to have help people pay for the cost to have their wells built. And then we're going through another well site protection plan update that's all about managing our drinking water source. All of Edina except for the Mornington neighborhood and a few kind of structures around the edges that get their water from other communities. It's groundwater is the source of our drinking water. And that is another plan that's required every 10 years to be updated at the Department of Health. Here's our groundwater wells that we map, when they get sealed. We've got many, many wells, and we still have 39 structures in the city of Edina that use private wells as their primary domestic source of water, which I think is pretty surprising when we discovered that such an old city still has people that are on private wells. So pollution prevention, we are a municipal separate storm and sewer system community here. We've heard the acronym MS4. And that means that the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency permits us as a polluter because we have a storm sewer system. And that is kind of trickle down legislation from the Clean Water Act. So Clean Water Act federal legislation says states figure out a way to manage pollution in your state. And then the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency says cities, here's all the things you have to do to not break the law. It's 27 pages long. Tess and I were working on that. And a new permit was issued in November of 2020. So we had to put in an application to be covered under that new permit. And our stormwater pollution prevention program is now out for public comment as of 2 days ago. So I submitted this to Grace last week, and in that time now it has been published for public comment. So you can find that our application for coverage under that permit on our stormwater webpage. And if you can't find it on there, you can email me and I can help you. I can direct you to it. But that's open for public comment until September 10th. We take comments on that at any time of the year. And this is another time that I just want to remind people that we're open to your feedback on our stormwater pollution prevention plan. What does that look like? A lot of outreach and engagement. We do construction inspections, erosion sediment control inspections. We do post-construction inspections of facilities that people install to manage their stormwater. So things underground infiltration devices, rain gardens, kind of the whole gamut of things that are relatively simple and inexpensive on the surface and things that are really expensive, complicated underground. And then we have some public stuff. I picked the pictures of the worst ones for you, where things, you know, the streets caving in or a giant cottonwood tree is growing over an outlet, or things are full of junk or eroding or breaking. So these are kind of the greatest hits of the worst of the worst. And they don't all look like this, but just on the public side alone, we've got more than 2,000 structures, 80 miles of stormwater mains, and the majority of our system is old and in need of reinvestment. So what else do we do under that pollution prevention category? We do a lot of work, as you probably know, there's a lot of redevelopment in the city of Edina. And so we have a person dedicated to erosion and sediment control during construction that does inspections and compliance and enforcement. And then stormwater management and runoff control. So here's a couple examples of things that we like to see where people are protecting and keeping the sediment in the soil on site. And then some examples of bad players that get letters of violation from our permit reviewer. Illicit discharges, this is another kind of worst of the worst, and these are real examples from the city of Edina. And illicit discharge is anything in the storm sewer that shouldn't be there. And really the kind of the high level summary is only rain down the drain. So if it's rain or snow or falls from the sky, we're okay with that. Anything else, not okay, with some exceptions. Irrigation water, we consider that clean, not a big deal. Firefighting activities, we think that's an okay reason to have material go into a storm drain. So there's some exceptions, but leaking organic waste containers, grass clippings. I think this is some kind of cement or grout, pool discharge, some kind of petroleum product, and another like joint compound kind of dumping. Those things are not allowed. People get letters from me. That's usually enough to scare them into knocking that off. So, and usually, yeah, people react and they fix that right away. Chloride, we do ongoing training and technology upgrades for that. Here's some segmented plow blades that we invested in 2020. That was an idea that came from the operators who take a lot of pride in the work that they do. They care about the service they provide, and they care about safety, and they care about the environment too. So they're kind of in a tricky spot, and they're always looking for ways to reduce their chloride while providing that safety and that service. There's some new property manager training that we're trying to get out to the private sector. City of Edina is leading on a few initiatives, and we've been asked by other states to kind of talk about the things that we're doing here. This chloride model contract was something that we worked on with Sue Nissen. She's a resident, part of the Stopover Salting, kind of a local grassroots chloride pollution prevention group. And Sue and I are great friends. We're actually talking on Friday about another initiative. Yeah, no, talk about it. Thank you. Thanks.
Jessica, I have another question. So the award was because the city used less salt or used a different product, or?
Yeah, it's about like leadership and trying to find innovative ways to use less. So that was partly related to that developing a model contract. There's a lot of concerns about liability with slip and falls. And so we work with an attorney and private applicators, private property managers, and our watershed district staff and our local champions to say, let's figure out a way where someone can hire an applicator and they can, usually it's kind of this unbalanced, one tries to pin all the liability on the other, right? This applicator is going to say, this is completely on you, or the manager is going to say, this is completely on you, applicator. Whoever seems to have the most leverage tries to push it on the other. So we developed a model contract that says, we care about the environment. We acknowledge there's some established best practices, like don't do dumb things. And then a processes for demonstrating due care, and that reduces the liability for both parties. So we take this thing that was really scary and did not exist. There was no contract we could find example that talked about the environmental impacts of chloride, or best practices. It was more just like, how many bags do you want?
Okay.
We're gonna come out when it smells a hurricane. So I think that was, no one else had done that before, so that was part of it. And then we also were doing a research project with the U of M, which those conversations and that, the data that they generated from that also led to that segmented cloud blade recommendation. So I think it's just a lot of creativity and just trying new things that people aren't doing yet, so. I'll keep bragging though if you want.
Thank you.
Community engagement, these are all the various channels that we use to reach out to people. Yeah, if you have any questions about those.
So how do you engage? Do you have booths and do you present about it? Like, you know, this is my second year here, so I just want to, because we want to do some of that things at the commission, so do you have a booth there and you are presenting all the things that you have done, or?
Yep, so I consider this to be one of those things we do, is talk to you guys about it. Open Streets on 50th was canceled this year and was canceled last year too, but that's one where there's booths from government agencies and private business owners. And we just talk to anybody who will come by, and we try to pick one topic to focus on, even though there's a million things related to water you could talk about. And we were really promoting this Adopt a Storm Drain that 2 years ago now, where you can sign up for, it's like 15 minutes a month to say, you know, the storm drain in front of my house, I'm going to commit to keeping it clear of leaves and garbage and whatever else. Every storm drain leads to a water body at some point, and that water does not get treated along the way. So anything you can do to keep grass clippings and leaves and twigs and garbage out keeps that from being a future fuel source for algae in a downstream water body. Metro Blooms, we have 1 or 2 workshops a year where we help people can sign up if they want to learn how to build a rain garden or do a native plant restoration. So it's like a 2-class workshop. One is all learning and the other one is all like someone's going to help you design a project in your property. Minnesota Water Stewards, these are our volunteers that are go through a training. I think it's like 40 hours of coursework. And that's how I met like Sue and the belated Walter Levesque and Luann Waddick, and a lot of people who are working with me on stuff all the time. This is like a metro clean water, all the cities and watershed districts, we all get together and talk about education initiatives and how to do that. And then City Extra is kind of like the newsletters. You all should sign up for the newsletters so that then you know where the harmful algal blooms are. I don't like sending those out, but we do that. And then Better Together, so the Lindmar Stormwater Project, the Morningside Project, the Melanie Shoreline Project, those are all like project-based engagement where we get out with the neighborhood and say, something's happening here, what do you want it to be? Adopt a Drain, I talked about that one a little bit already. So you can sign up and there's a welcome kit, yard sign, you can name
So
your
it's
name.
still active? Yes.
What's that?
Still active? Yeah.
Yeah, I encourage you to sign up. Go ahead, next slide. This is the Natural Resources Interactive Story Map. I'm gonna just get to the end of this and then I'll give Tessa a chance to run through that. But we have been working with the Parks Department to reinvest in our natural areas throughout the city in various parks. So that's kind of the showcase of those. And then last slide is kind of my catch-all last bit of things that can fit into other categories very nicely. All this information about like permits or plans and policies and studies or other agreements that we have with projects that we work on with watershed district, for example, the symmetry maps, which is a fancy way of saying like depth maps of the lake. If there's properties in floodplain, we've developed individual maps for every property that applies to. And then we have our interactive water resources map, which is chock full of really great data, sometimes a little bit overwhelming and too much. So maybe I'll give Tessa a chance to show you the natural area story map while you think about all the other burning questions you have. And then we can go there. Go ahead.
Sounds good. So yeah, over the past couple weeks, I've been working the Parks Department and different departments within Edina to create this natural areas interactive story map. So the platform it uses is ArcGIS Online, which is a mapping service that you can do. And so we really wanted to highlight primarily the difference between a park and a natural area, and then the maintenance that comes with that, and all of the different maintenance strategies and different care related activities for that. And then also to invite people into those areas to kind of see what the city's doing, because there is a lot of work being done, but we haven't done a lot of outreach or shared that with a lot of people. So this is one of the first steps to publicize that and spread the word about the work that Edina is doing in these natural areas, which will also, it ties into the comprehensive water resource plan, because it's meeting a lot of those standards for outreach and engagement.
So do you want to scroll through, maybe take
Yeah, you can even take this if you want, Tessa, either way.
Yeah, so water resources plan, part of the comprehensive plan, it's its own amendment, its own component. So wanted to reference that up top, and then again, inviting people into these natural areas. So we have an interactive map a little further down. So as you scroll to the next one, it'll pop over to the next location. And then as well, you can click through the pictures to see the different activities taking place. So some places have a lot of, this is buckthorn removal, the invasive shrub like tree that is everywhere. And then, yeah, you guys can read more about the paragraphs of everything through time. But so one of the highlights some really good work that's being done.
Where do you find this? Is this on the City of Edina website?
Yeah,
somewhere?
so it's on the city website. If you go to parks, and then I think it's parks about, and then it has its own section, and then it's also under parks or explore, and then trails. And then,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so about in maps, and there's all of our city maps. So our flood risk map is there, our interactive water resources map is there, the natural resources map. The natural resources, my groundwater wells map. The natural area story map was published like 1 week ago. So get in there so you can see lots of clicks on the back end, would be cool. But yeah, that's brand new.
Very cool.
And then, so some drone footage, and then so we keep going down. There's different sliders like before and after. Braemar Golf Course had a natural areas restoration. So you can see the difference between those two areas, mainly. There.
So the majority, more than half of Braemar Park is natural or creek. And we've restored dozens of acres when that park was redeveloped, the golf courses.
So Jessica, what are they doing now? Or what did they do last year in the framework?
Do you mean like along Hillary Lane, or generally speaking, like?
No, because they cut a lot of trees last year.
Yeah,
So
along Hillary Lane, there was a big, cleared out a ton of just like junk trees, Siberian elm, a lot of buckthorn.
Things that were gonna die anyway sometimes, like ash.
Yeah, and ash trees, we're doing, there's some ash trees that we're saving and we're treating, and then there's others where we're just planting them, they get removed as that kind of opportunity arises. So that was a big clearing out, and I think it looked so much more healthy afterward. These really choked out, super dense areas filled with trees. It's kind of this like second growth. And really this is an oak savanna that we were restoring. Oak savanna is mostly grass with a few really beautiful like specimen oak trees that reach really far out and up, and they're like the most beautiful tree you've ever seen. A lot of times what we see in these like second growth, they get so choked out because there's no grazing, there's no fire to produce those kind of second growth trees, is then you get these weird trees that spin away to the top because there's no light, and then they kind of sprout out at the very top. Whereas these really beautiful specimen oaks, you can tell it's old if it stretches, if it goes kind of more out than up. So I thought, so this is kind of the area. So this is the clubhouse and parking lot. This is Hillary Lane. And like right here is where they did a lot of clearing. And they're kind of doing I can't even read that, it's so blurry. But yeah, it was clearing out a bunch of stuff it was a restoration effort there. And a lot of trees actually on both sides. if you've noticed over the years, it was so wet. There's some big wetland complexes and this entire area is actually like really marshy. And a lot of trees died because from 2014 to 2019, it was just so wet that a lot of those volunteer trees and cottonwoods and things like that just couldn't handle that much water. So they you drive through there now, there's a lot of deadfall and things.
Do you sub that work out
We do.
into whom?
We do 3-year maintenance contracts. This is our first round. I think we're in our 2nd year of that, and Cardno, Cardno, won the bid. We didn't even know they existed before they submitted a bid, and they were the lowest. And we're like, all right, there's a new player in the game. So I think, you know, statewide and maybe region-wide, there's a lot more investment in natural areas. So I think there's a much more career paths for people who want to get into that because the business is growing.
Well, it looks phenomenal.
Awesome, great to hear that.
How did you spell it? C-A-R-D-O-N?
Cardno, Cardno.
Cardno.
Yeah. So, and then after next year, we'll go out for competitive bid again on all of our natural areas. And I think this was like a maybe $200,000 deal over 3 years. And it's not just Braemar, it's Pamela and Braemar and Arden and all the others where we're doing some investment. So, and this map really highlights all those areas where we really are doing a lot of work to restore it. Yeah, there's our buckthorn slider at Lake Cornelia. You can actually see the lake.
Wow.
Isn't that nice? Even though it looks a little brown and green right now, but hopefully that'll be better soon too. Other questions or just things you're curious about or you can follow up on more afterwards?
Was buckthorn planted at some point in time and then it just took off, or is that naturally growing in holiday spots?
It was not planted by us. I can probably guarantee that. It was a really popular hedge plant for a really long time, and then it just is so successful here that it just takes over, and it's in everywhere. So like 30 years ago, the land ethic, you know, for natural areas was just to leave it alone. Well, if you leave a park property alone without mowing it regularly, it's filled with buckthorn. So in a way, those areas that we were mowing as turf, it's kind of like, oh, at least we don't have buckthorn. We should probably work on having less turf too. But mowing is a good way to kind of keep buckthorn out. But yeah, in Bredesen Park, here's another, this is from Bredesen, and that was full, that whole pool area that you can now actually see and get to. You couldn't see the water before when you're walking on the trail. So yeah, it was not planted, but it's super successful, and there's berries that the birds eat and go and poop all over the place and reseeded everywhere. But yeah, it was a common hedge that people would plant. And some people actually, at Braemar Golf Course, when we tried to remove it at that boundary between the park and residential, they like it because it's a screen from viewing things. So sometimes people actually don't want us to remove it, and we kind of get to these like property lines where we're like, all right, it's right there, but it's at least not on city property, and we kind of battle it continually, but yeah.
It also likes to grow kind of wherever, so.
And it takes years to get on top of it. It's not a one and done kind of plant, so.
There's like a schedule, like year 1, you cut it down, year 2, you become a leaf tree, and then.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Any other questions on the map?
Nice job.
Lots
Yeah,
of
great
work.
shot to us out. I think it turned out so nice.
Those interactive maps are cool.
Anything else you wish you would have seen or we talked about?
Not really. I was just gonna say, so one thing is that you can see the interactive maps, and they're cool. Better if you go see them in person. So I live by Pamela Park, so I know the Buckthorn project. It is beautiful. What the property looks now. You can actually look into the pond. And then a couple of years back, we went also to Braemar when they had just finished the project, and we toured the property. Great also.
Cool, good.
When you put in the full buffer, like on the west end of Melody Lake, who pays for that?
Our stormwater utility fee covers the cost of that. We consider that a stormwater improvement.
Okay.
To kind of slow that down. Parks also is really appreciative to that we're kind of reducing their turf mow area. But yeah, that's a stormwater utility fee, stormwater utility fund that pays for that.
Okay.
Often we can partner with the watershed district for those.
Yeah.
They're in the 9 Mile Creek watershed district.
Yeah.
So Fire Station 1 and Lake Cornelia as a watershed district chipped in 75% of that.
Congratulations.
Both. Thanks, everybody.
Can I ask a quick question? It might be just general, but I'm just trying to get a handle on, I'm a numbers person and I like facts and figures. So when you make a decision that the biggest change to stormwater management is climate change, how are you measuring that? Are you measuring it by like significant rain events or annual precipitation? How are you measuring that
Great
change?
question. Yeah. So in our flood risk map, we can model the flood areas. So we use topography of the landscape. We use a precipitation model that predicts how much rain we get, and it's based on just past records.
Okay.
And then our stormwater network to kind of guess where the water is going to pool after we have various rain events. So we can kind of model in or ask the computer, like, all right, if we have what we call a 1% chance storm, like there's a 1% chance every year that we could have a rain that's 7.5 inches. That's specific to this stretch of Minnesota. And then if we do that, we plug it into everything we know about our system, this is where the water's going to pool up. So that's what our inundation map shows. So our current precipitation model that we use is based on data from the 1940s up until I think early 2010s.
Okay.
Before that, we had a different precipitation model, which was just the best available data we had at the time in the early 2000s, and that was based on data from like the 1940s to the 1960s. So when we took this old data set that was like 40s, 50s, 60s, what our understanding of rainfall was, and we swapped it out for our new understanding of the amount of rain that we receive, it was a huge difference in what flooding issues we saw. So just by using more modern data for precipitation that captured the most recent decades, we saw a huge increase in flood risk. We expect that precipitation trend to increase, where we're just going to have more water and more intense rain events. So that's where we're predicting that climate is going to overwhelm it. We can plug that into our models. We can see that it used to be a 5 and some inch rainfall event was the big one that you get a year. Now it's 7.5 inches, and that turns out to be really huge impact on the ground. So
And those large flooding events are gonna have like the highest like infrastructure costs too, if they're overwhelming city systems and also private. So I think that's for the reason why it's like the biggest upfront cost.
Because I'm just trying to figure out in my own head to balance out what I see is a combination of such a big increase of impervious surfaces and, more larger homes on lots. And so you're getting, from the 1940s to now, it's up night and day how much more impervious surfaces are, and how to balance out what's actually driven by change versus what's driven by things that we're choosing to do, what's in our control, what's not in our control.
Yeah.
And so, for lack of a better, and I'm just saying this for discussion purposes, climate change is kind of the theory that we're working with, and you're using a model to assess that theory. Okay.
Yeah, and we actually explored that exact question in our flood risk reduction strategy, because going into that, even staff thought the impervious year has got to matter the most. And we were surprised, surprised and not surprised, right? Climate change, we know that that's a big deal, but we were surprised at how much climate mattered and how little impervious did. So we asked those questions, and we used the Morningside neighborhood as a pilot case study to test those questions. So we did some sensitivity analyses for those where we can say, based on today, which is somewhere between 50 and 60% impervious in that neighborhood, what's the inundation? And then we can do some sensitivity analysis where you say, okay, let's say we reduce all the impervious in the entire neighborhood by 5%, and we can just plop that into our model and see how much that matters. And it was like a drop in the bucket. It didn't really matter. So imagine if you were going to reduce all the impervious in Morningside by 5%, every street, every sidewalk, every house, every garage, every court, every pool. That's a huge change. We're talking about 5%, and it didn't matter from the modeling perspective, the risk. And then we said, let's dial way back, 25% reduction. That's a huge reduction at a neighborhood scale in impervious. And only then did we start to see it where you can actually see the difference start to appear. So we tested that. If we rolled way back on impervious, would it matter here? Not as much as climate change. And partly because Morningside's a really wetland marshy area anyway. It's not like water was going to infiltrate there. It was always going to pool and move across the surface. So we looked at that. We asked the same question, and there's a lot of our analysis and appendices with tech memos are in that flood risk reduction strategy document. You can take a look at that. Let me know what questions.
Yeah, so I'm curious how that model works and how you know, because I'm kind of finding things that are a little bit different as far as the number of significant rain events are actually decreasing rather than increasing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how that justifies into the whole climate change and
Yeah,
water management.
and those big events are occurring more frequently. So like a 10-year storm is happening more than once every 10 years. So the Minnesota State Climatology Office has some really good graphics that show kind of the intensity and the amount of storms that we've had, and they are more intense and they're a little bit bigger, and they're happening more frequently than they ought to.
I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, check out that report. We include all the kind of our analysis on that. Yeah, and that's not to say that impervious doesn't matter. It does. It's just dwarfed by these other things that are really important.
I'm just thinking you have a little more control over that.
Yeah.
So you're hoping it's a little bit more.
It's like a tangible.
Yeah. And I think with our strategy, we feel like with that regulatory program, you know, having we see redevelopment as a generally really positive thing, because houses that are super low in the landscape have that opportunity to then reduce their exposure by raising up. Even in Southdale, you know, as those properties redeveloped and they come up to modern standards for water management, a lot of those were built before there were any rules, right?
Yeah.
So now when they redevelop, we're going to say, you've got to control, you know, your pollutants coming outside, and you got to control your water volume coming outside. That's a really slow process, but we see redevelopment as generally really positive for water quality and flood risk reduction. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, item number 6 has to do with community comments, but since there are no members of the community, I suggest we close the community comment process. So, does anybody wants to make a motion to close?
And since we don't actually have any comment, we don't even have to close it. We can
No?
just-
Oh,
Okay. Yes, we do. No, for community comment, people do have to come in person, or they have to write ahead of time. So we did not have any messages ahead of time.
Okay.
We don't have to
Okay.
formally close it.
It wasn't really, so. So now we are in item number 7, which has to do with report and recommendation. And the first item to be reported is the climate action plan. So I'm going to give you a brief update of what's happening with the climate action plan. We have our 5th meeting on the 4th of August. The consultant presented for the 9 subsectors, the goals and specific actions for each goals. Each subsector has around 3 to 5 goals, and each goal has between 4 and 10 actions. During that meeting, we discussed possible leaders for the implementation of each action, and mostly the leaders are city staff. And we also identified stakeholders that may be interested in supporting and helping execute some of the action. We also identified possible institutions that can provide resources, either in the form of staff, volunteers, or grants and funding. And today we had an additional meeting regarding equity, and the aim of the meeting today was discussing these strategies and the actions related to equity, and to try to identify of those actions and strategies what were the positive side of it and the negative impacts, and who will benefit and be affected by them. And based on that, he's gonna develop like a framework, is that correct, Grace, for the climate action plan. So we still have 2 more meetings, and I think he's gonna be presenting the final document in October for everybody to revise. So that's my update on the climate action plan. I don't know if anybody of you have questions.
So just, when we were at the market today, somebody came by and was interested in how she can get more involved, and she said that she heard about the climate action plan. She was wondering, is there ways to get involved at this point in time in it?
So I guess at this point in time, they have to wait for the final report that is gonna be presented by the consultant, and I think it's gonna be open for comments, right?
Yeah, so starting September 2nd, I think, so after the planning team's next meeting, it will be open for public comment, for a month. It will be open through the end of September for the public to weigh in, either online or in person at some various events. So, yeah, we're doing, a big mailing, a physical mailing and an email blast and website promotion. And so, folks will be made aware. Yeah.
And then for the actions, can people get involved in the implementation of them all?
Yeah, well, like now it's gonna be that like the blueprint, right? And we're gonna identify that basically who of the government is gonna take the lead, and then who can participate. So eventually we have identified like NGOs or maybe members of that community. So yeah, like eventually they will be able to participate. So the implementation starts. Okay, so the next initiative is that to-go packaging. So I think Michelle is going to present something for us.
Yeah, so we should have all received the report, the advisory report and the ordinance. So I hope you all had a chance to look at that, because it's my hope and goal that we take a vote on it and can pass it on to the council. So my subcommittee did a wonderful job working on this, and so I appreciate all their efforts. So I don't know if you guys have comments, or you want me to go through it, or what you want me to do.
I don't know, do you want to go through maybe what were the main changes after the significant?
Sure, if we go through the legislative purpose piece of it, just the kind of the overall objectives.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then we can kind of go through some specifics. So we kind of took mostly kind of a lens of waste and our goals as a city. So the city has a greenhouse gas reduction goal, right? 30% reduction by 2025. It also has a solid waste goal of reducing solid waste by 75% by 2030s also. And so our goal then and objective for this was to kind of promote, as you can see, promote waste reduction. And by doing that, we had the specifics on how that was going to impact, or how this could impact it, and waste prevention, basically by trying not to create waste in the first place, promote recycling, kind of maximize those packages that can be recycled, and then minimize contamination was also important, because right now, the compost is getting, with all these programs coming on board, there's a lot of contamination, and so we really need to get strict on our work on that contamination piece. So those are the high level overview of that. Do you have anything to add, Corey?
No, I think that covers it. And we talked to St. Louis Park. We did research on what 10 cities maybe.
Yeah.
So pulled from a lot of different places to kind of come up with what we thought was the best recommendation here. City Council's already seen this briefly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Presented at the work session. Yeah.
Any questions?
And so basically, the basic thing is, restaurants will have to provide to-go packaging that's recyclable, reusable, or compostable. We added straws to this, that they shouldn't be handed out unless requested. We didn't mandate whether it should be compostable. And my thinking was, Emily Barker is really well-versed in this world over at St. Louis Park. And she was reluctant to go down that road. A lot for her has a little bit of equity and accessibility stuff as well. And I feel like I kind of took her lead, but so on that, but we also took utensils have to be compostable. So that's on the non-packaging side. And then we also put in things about location of bins, that you have to co-locate trash, recycling, and compost. And then there's certain restaurants that don't have to comply with that, like if they don't have seating or if they don't provide to-go packaging. And then another piece of this is that to help with the reduction of contamination is that a to-go cup has to, if it's compostable, both the lid and the cup has to be compostable. If it's recyclable, both the lid and the cup have to be recyclable. So that's to also help with that contamination piece. But yeah.
So I have a question for you, like with the food trucks.
Mhm.
So it does apply to them, right?
It will, yeah.
And then you said that whoever hires them, they have to make sure that there's like if the city, for example, now in the farmer's market, the city has to make sure that there's a compostable.
Right.
Okay.
So that's, yeah. And I did talk to one restaurant who said the city isn't very friendly to food trucks. I
Yeah.
don't know if you know,
Yeah.
but, so I don't know what that is doing, but yeah, so we kind of set that up, and again, it's kind of in a couple of the other ordinances. But I think it makes sense that,
No, I do think it makes sense. But for example, in Centennial, there's no compostable truck there.
okay, can I just say, Grace, it killed me today to be at the farmer's market. We're an organics table right next to the corn booth, which is out there, which was pretty cool, my statement. And in between us is a bin. And I couldn't even look at it when I had to throw something away because there was recyclables, there was cans, there was bottles, there was corn husks. I just can't tell you how painful that was. And
Instead in the table, you should have been in the.
and yeah, so
Like, say, no, here is recycle,
yeah.
here is trash, you know?
And I do have an idea, and I don't know if I should say that now or wait till, I'm gonna say no then. I would think it would serve us, I think we'd get more out of not manning a booth, but manning a bin. And just, I think we can talk as people are throwing things away, but I think we can do two things. We can educate and then actually have an impact by standing at a bin, having even just three of us at different bins versus standing at a table.
Yeah, I think that's what you want to do in the arts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I learned through our Fall into the Arts Festival planning that we do not offer recycling even at Centennial Lakes Park. But that is, if you come to Fall into the Arts Festival, you will be staffing a bin and you will be telling folks where things go. But that could be part of your, I mean, when you think about 2022, that could be part of the communication tabling outreach initiative as well.
But
It's something to think about.
Bin
Why
with the bin.
do the park doesn't have recycling?
They,
Let me just brief you a little bit. Last year, I think, we revised a proposal for the parks, no, that what the park should have, that we said it should have compostable, recycling, even if EV charging on, so that was proposed to the city or to the Parks and Recreation. They even asked for us and we gave them input. I think Caroline worked on that.
so I don't know, I'll have to.
Suppose that all the parks, and we add the organic part because it was starting.
Right there, I can get that.
But recycling for sure.
I
will say, there are 2 bins of recyclable, recyclable bins, I guess, at Centennial Park.
Okay,
2,
uh-huh,
but they're all horribly contaminated.
uh-huh.
And I think that's the biggest issue that, Tiffany's having now, having to
Yeah,
deal with that.
And they have to be co-located. Anytime you can't have just a trash bin, you can't have just a recycling. They always have to be together. Otherwise, but anyway, so I know that's for other.
It's good.
Anyway, so any other thoughts on the ordinance?
So now it's ready to go to the council.
Yeah, I think we're feeling confident.
So what's the next step?
so you will, this body will vote to advance it to council, and it will be put on council agenda in the near future, in the next meeting that we're able to include it on. We will also, for a new ordinance, we will have at least one reading, which means that it will need a public period of 10 days. So we'll notify that we'll go through a public notification process that this ordinance is being proposed. And we'll receive comment for it, or on it. Up to that council meeting, the council will do what's called a first reading, and they may vote to adopt it at that first reading. Or they may ask for adjustments to it. Staff will take those adjustments and we'll make them. And then there would be a second and final reading. Typically, if the second is the final reading, or council would adopt it. So it could take up to 2 meetings to adopt.
Exciting.
But once EEC votes to advance it,
Yeah,
then
so-
you've kind of done your duty.
Yeah, so let's make a vote to advance this ordinance to the council. So can you do a roll call?
I move.
Second.
Going to just making a note.
So then that meeting that it could be the first meeting presented to the council, it's the one in August, it is in August or no?
We need a 10-day, so there's two
Okay.
schedules that we have to deal with, which is one, actually putting something on the agenda, which has to happen a week in advance of a council meeting, and then two, getting that 10-day public period. So it'll be probably realistically be 4 weeks from now that council hears it. But here is the vote. Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Hovanek,
I,
Commissioner Lanzus,
Aye.
Commissioner Lukens.
Aye.
Chair Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Tessman.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Michelle.
Nice job, thank you.
So we're gonna come after plastic bags next year.
Perfect.
It's huge.
Okay, so the next initiative is number 3, which has to do with the EDC event tabling. Bayardo, where's yours?
Well, I mean, if you've been there, you know what it's like, and it's always fun. But yeah, there's always challenges, and definitely, like Michelle said, it was kind of painful to see all the corn husks that are gardening material go into trash. Having said that, hopefully next year is more normal. We can have open streets, and we can have 4th of July, we can have all the events that we need, and I think for next year, we can try to, since now we have all the city members with the new ones in, city commissioners now with new ones in. Hopefully by next year, we can all figure out how to properly staff and man all the tables and events without without a shortage of volunteers, which I'm going to lead and try to figure out how to get everybody to get involved a little more, because it's needed.
Peter and Anna, is there any sort of club at the high school where you guys could bring out higher numbers, some of it?
We sent it out to Project Earth, but I think only one girl signed up to help out.
I guess it's difficult in the summer, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe I could have reminded them, I didn't, I just sent it at the beginning of the summer and then I didn't follow up.
They're there before.
But, yeah, that's the only club I think would be.
Wondering about like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and.
Yeah, there's many ways to.
So I would think like, what is our goal with this initiative of tabling? This year is organics, right? Because it just rolled out, like, if it was gonna be just organics each summer, then that makes sense. Almost anybody, we could get volunteers from the community we can get. And I have a name of another person who wants to, who would be happy to do that. And we actually had one volunteer from the community tonight, yeah. So then, but then is a question of, is the table there to say all the things that the city is doing and through our group, like all the initiatives we're doing? Because if that's the case, then it needs to be driven by the EEC members. And if that's also the case, then I think there has to be a commitment from us And I know that's difficult because not everybody, can get off from 3 to 7. So then I think we need to really look and see, can we actually do this initiative? So I feel like there's some good discussion that we need to have on what this looks like and what we want. I mean, and I think, if we want to do organics, I think we're better off banning bins and we can do a lot of education that way. But if we want to talk about the climate action plan, I don't even know enough about the climate action plan right now to talk about it. So I feel like we have to be a little bit more deliberate or just have a better idea of what our goal is for this initiative. If that makes sense. I mean, I'm gonna be off base, but.
No, I think it's a valid point. I think based on what Jessica said, and I believe it's probably the best way to approach it is instead of just like randomly saying all these different things that we're doing, try to focus on more specifics. Now, if we want to talk about the different projects or different items on our work plan is, then I think the solution would be to have whoever is leading or whoever is championing these work plan items to come and present.
I think that's.
Because just like you said, you don't know enough about climate action plan. I don't either. I have the literature, but how do I explain 50-something pages of it to a person and try to 5 minutes? No, it's if somebody is involved directly on it, come by. I'm sure you can do a quick 1 minute, literal presentation to a person, summary to a person versus like me trying to remember all the information on there. But I think we have to do like more specific target rather than it's like, oh, let's bombard people with facts across the board about what we are doing.
I mean, I do say that we've had the two and a half times I've been there. The conversations have been great. Like, I feel it's very impactful when we're talking about organics and between you and Twyla, and like, there are people that are very intrigued, and I think Twyla and you have gotten some information from how people are doing and helping them. So I don't think I think it's a nice avenue for us to get information out. But we just have to tweak in what our goals are.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, that's one of the proposed initiative for the next year. So to define clearly what do we want to do with that.
Because it is an opportunity. It would be.
Do we want to just focus on organics, or do we really want to talk other issues we are discussing leading in the EEC? So I guess that's that discussion we need to have.
Yeah, I think, I guess I was thinking about this and to me, it seems like this tabling program is really, it's a contact point or touch point under a broader communications plan, right? I don't think the tabling event is difficult to think through. You have to think through what events can you attend, what is your messaging, and then who's going to do it. If you can answer those 3 questions, I think, like we would say, we'll be in good shape. I kind of like this idea of focusing on, like you guys have been working organics for the last year or 2. If we get this climate action plan in place, I think our initiative for 2022 should be like, how do we educate the community about the climate action plan?
And
Just a quick high level judgment thought. It's so important to the community, and we could use these events as part of our broader communications plan, if you will. They're there for education, awareness and education of what we're doing. So I think you're right. I think if you get
a lot of outreach, really.
But at the end of the day, we can have like a 1-page overview of the climate action plan that anyone can kind of work their way through, and a couple of handouts, and just guide people as to like, okay, here's kind of this at a high level, and then for more detail, go here, Then you don't have to like, I'm kind of new to the organics plan, and I'm learning, like when I go there to listen, like I'm spinning the wheel learning myself, right? But that's not really, I'm like, Michelle, can you answer that question?
No, I agree.
So I was thinking about the work plan for 2022 and how these things tie together, and that's how I kind of see playing out next year.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. Like, should we focus in just one thing, or should we try to expand a little bit more? Because I know also that you want to promote the business recognition program, one of the things we want to. So I don't know if maybe we can choose two or three of them, not all the things.
Right, right.
And as Tom said, maybe do some talking points. It's not that difficult,
Right,
you know?
yeah,
So everybody can have them, and whoever goes,
yeah, and that's one.
Right.
it's ideal, it could, the person leading it should go and do it, but I don't know, it's 3 months, so I don't know if everybody has the time to go.
Yeah.
So if each of us volunteer for one day, we can have a talking point and
Right.
try to promote 2 or 3 of the activities we're doing as part of the EDC.
Yeah, but there are other events we can entertain too, right? There could be events in the evening, there could be events in the weekends, you know, the farmer's market is a nice event.
I
Ties in nicely with the organics, and obviously Twyla may want to continue, you know, it's like kind of, it's her program, so she probably will want to continue to,
in fact, I
with
think
outreach.
there were other events that were considered, but due to the COVID,
for sure.
it just didn't happen, so. Yeah. Okay, so, well, now that we're talking about tabling, I think Grace wants to present that action request. Is that correct?
Sure, well, as I did last month, I have some sign-up sheets here. There may be both in front of you, Peter, if you want to grab them and pass them around or take them, yeah, they can go either way. Reminder, the farmer's market, we do have like 6 more weeks of the farmer's market, so take a look at the dates. September, you will be joined by members of the climate action planning team who will be there to specifically promote the CAP and to gather public comment, so keep that in mind. But the other option is the Fall into the Arts Festival. Brief reminder, it is the weekend of September 11th and 12th, 10 to 5, 10 to 6, or 10 to 6, 10 to 5. We will be staffing 2 waste bins at the festival, and then the EEC will also have a booth where it can promote items. So please consider signing up. Many of you have, thank you. Twyla will be there on site, and we'll also be dipping into our other volunteer pools to make sure all the shifts are covered. But this is a chance to try out your idea, Michelle.
There we go.
Be there in front of a bin and get folks educated.
Me and my bins. My bins.
So we'll spin the wheel, it's
Yeah.
win the bin.
Great. I don't want to win that one.
Pick the bin and win.
So,
Could have fun.
following a little bit, before we enter to the discussion of the work plan, I know Luther sent a report regarding trees, so I don't know if you were able to look at it. The idea of having this report is to have a little bit more of, to know more of what the city is doing and to see if we want to do something regarding trees or green space or canopy in our work plan. So I don't know if you have any chance of, do you want to revise it or should we go through it?
His very last comment, number 8, was, I thought was interesting. He says that other cities are doing more, and he's all for implementing stricter policies here.
So I assume the builders, they don't respect the ordinance.
Well, the ordinance is very simple, right? And I think you linked it at the top if anyone took a look, but it's, there's not a lot.
Yeah, there's not I couldn't participate in the event the city did about trees, but I did saw it, like I saw it afterwards. And I was really impressed about, they were very specific, all of the other 3 cities, about the size of the trees that the size of the size of tree that the tree has to have before being thought and how it has to be replaced. And I guess maybe that's one of the things that it has to be worked on.
Yep. So do you want to transition to the work plan?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, so maybe we can. So for the 2022 work plan, Grace, she downloaded all the information in the format of that we used for the 2020 work plan. Based on the information that everybody respond, we developed the initial title, and also we identified leaders and supporters for each of the initiatives. But there are still a lot of them without leaders and without supporters, and I think that at least one member should be leading at least one, if they want to lead more. And if we don't get anybody interested in leading, I think my suggestion and Grace is to delete the action.
Agreed.
Probably we have that.
Fair.
And just before we get too deep, just a reminder on the schedule. So proposed work plans are due at the end of September, September 28th. So you'll have one more official meeting to meet to finalize your draft work plan. Chair Martinez will present the work plan to council in October. Staff will present our recommendations to council in November, and you all will have seen those recommendations. They will have surprises. And then council will approve that plan in December. So you'll have a few chances to refine, but the idea is that this plan is pretty much final by your next meeting. So with that, Chair Martinez.
Quick question. Are we still on schedule for September 9th as the EET meeting?
I think so.
Okay. So we have 4 weeks to figure it out before meeting on September 9th, and then after that, basically finalize so you can present to council.
Exactly.
All right.
So shall we go one by one, maybe? Okay. So the first initiative is a climate action plan. It has to do with the follow-up on the implementation of actions established in the climate action plan that is going to be approved by the city council in 2021. So here, well, I don't have clear, like a clarity on what do we want to do. I know there's going to be a lot of actions, but I don't know how can we follow up on.
So, yeah, my suggestion as the liaison is that, at this stage, the plan is not approved, and so we're doing a little bit of a dance. But if the EEC and the leader and the supporter for this action can agree on either a sector that you want to focus on or a strategy, those are basically set. So you have access to those, Chair Martino.
So we should define one of the 9 sectors that we.
To work, I think, to focus on, and that at least will give you some constraints going into January to say, okay, we want to work on green space or we want to work on trees.
So okay, so then some of the initiative on trees can enter here then.
Exactly. Yeah.
So my question will be more, what do we expect to deliver? I follow up.
So we typically do ask for something tangible. So that could be a presentation at an event. It could be a report to council. It could be a project that has a recommendation. It could be an updated tree ordinance, or it could be, one of the things is expanding home energy squad. So it could be increase the number of home energy squad visits by this amount and then report to council that you did it. So
Part of the.
really a variety. Yeah, right. And so just tying it directly to one of those approved climate actions. Okay.
And do we have to state that as part of this work plan, or can that be like open field?
What I suggest is choosing a theme, at least, to give council an idea of what.
So do we want to, so like number, initiative 7 as the tree canopy, May type of stuff. Tree canopy, you're saying is already in the climate action plan? So
Yeah,
that could become we could just merge 7 with 1 potentially?
Yeah, I think we can do that because I think Luther is very enthusiastic, and I maybe that could help him moving forward. And I think everybody has interest in trees, and
Yep.
I will kind of think so.
The nutrients.
Maybe we can include that here. Merge them.
And so Grace, Luther says he would like to have a stronger, so he's not planning on doing it. So like is it helpful for us to work on that? Or is he like, I'm already doing it, like, is that?
No, I think it's helpful for the EEC to propose to work on it.
Okay.
His vision is that the climate action plans is what spurs the action on the ordinance.
Okay.
And so,
Does he not need to do it himself? Like he needs the support of the community to.
I think he needs some, I think there's some community support, and to the comment that you highlighted, he's one person, and so it's, he's both the doer, he's both the tree remover, and then the policy creator and enforcer, so
So we could help
it's
with
a
this.
capacity issue as well.
Okay. Oh, so that's kind of a nice way to bundle a couple things.
Yes. Is that okay? Yeah, that'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only question I would ask about Initiative 7 is that it is bigger than trees right now. It's natural landscapes generally, right? We're talking about lawns and pollinators. So I had originally said we might want to split.
In the action,
Yeah.
in the action plan, the subsector is green space,
So we could put it all in one, sure.
right? And it's tree canopy and imperials and.
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe we can do the same.
That works for me. Yeah.
It could be an overarching theme that lives for years, and you just change your
Yeah.
focus year after year after year.
Yeah.
This year, it's gonna be trees, next year it could be pollinators, year after that could be normal grass or whatever.
Yep.
Kind of nice.
Okay.
Okay, so, since we're here, I'm acting as a lead. So I know if anybody else wants to work on that one.
I was a little late filling out the spreadsheet. I did it last night, so I couldn't get it in.
Should we?
I'd like to,
Or you can lead if you want, Tom.
no, I signed up to lead something else. I'll support
Sound
this.
excited about trees.
What's that?
You sound excited about trees, so
Oh, trees?
She just wants to share.
Oh,
I'm joking.
I like trees.
Is it okay to put your name as a supporter? on
Yes.
this?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many total initiatives are we looking at for this year? Or what's our target? I know we said we wanted to take on more this year than last year, but
Yeah, but you know, I also, I said that, but I really think we need a commitment for everybody. So I guess at least one each, we'll say. If we can do that, I think it will be great. That's all. Just a feel.
So that'd be 9.
Like one each and maybe participating in a couple
Yeah.
with others, so.
I'd like to remove the name from number 2.
Okay, so then number 1 is, should we say it's okay, yeah? Okay, so initiative number 3 has to do with the Green Business Recognition Program, which has to strengthen and bring more business to the Green Business Recognition Program, promotion, outreach. So, Michelle, what do you say about it? I know we're gonna have it, but who do you see as a very deliverable?
So deliverables, because I think our big thing would be, I don't know, is the deliverables more businesses that sign up? Because I think our focus is really going to be outreach and marketing.
So like, I see that the notes that Grace put there, would that be like increasing the number of businesses or?
Yeah, I mean, that would be our goal. I mean, we have a goal of like 100% participation.
Yeah, what did Caroline say about that?
Oh, yeah, so that with Caroline, because, you know, I think before I talked about, we wanted to kind of grow this from the bottom up, but we needed some kind of statement from the top down, so I met with Caroline Jackson to see how she best felt that, and, she's like, yeah, well, the mayor can say he wants this and nothing happens, like, but I still feel like there should be some kind of above statement of that, but, so I didn't really get any answer there one, but she did say, you know, maybe reaching out to some of the bigger companies that do a lot of that stuff. She's like Fairview has a lot of green initiatives, and you know, just Dairy Queen. I know Frauenschuh does a lot. So take some of these big companies from different sectors if we can connect with them and maybe try, and then work with the chamber and stuff to try and, promote it that way. So kind of coming around the side with some of the bigger businesses. But yeah, I was hoping yours would be like, oh, all
Yeah.
councils made a statement, but maybe we need to build it up a little bit more so they.
Yeah. So he doesn't think maybe like a resolution of support would be worth it?
Yeah, she wasn't inviting on that,
Oh.
but that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean we can kind of go back out and ask, so.
Pick a different council person. Try James Pierce or somebody new.
Well, it's funny because she worked on the program, so it's not
I
like
know.
she's not a believer, but at least I'd hope that. But,
You got 4 others.
so I think we need to kind of come up with, I guess, our own ideas.
Yeah, well, we still have time. Okay.
Yeah, right, so, and, we have, did I get you the new application, the updated one? I think I forgot to put your name in, because I have,
Well,
all right, I gotta send you, I think I forgot to put your name in. Because we did incorporate, perhaps, we've changed the application a bit, so adding a not applicable column,
yeah,
so that we could do percentage.
sure.
So anyways, I need to send it to you. So anyways, so we'll have the, the updated application, so we don't need to work on that for 2022. It would just be the outreach and the marketing piece. So does that translate deliverables as more businesses?
I think so, yeah. And think about, Michelle, if you want to set a specific goal or just generally more.
Okay, all right, let's look that out.
And I'm happy to help with this because I have a lot of the contacts in some of the companies you talked about.
You are
I'd
on.
be happy to reach out to them.
Can I put a motion right now to?
Second. Second. On favor.
No, it's written.
Oh,
I
It's
send
recorded.
things online and they never show up in here, so I've got something wrong with figuring out how to work the system.
I just think we have our name on, we're done to be approver. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing everybody with masks on because I'm reading lips most of the time, so I can't really hear.
You're a member.
Okay.
And it's recorded, so.
Okay, cool,
Okay.
thank you.
Perfect. So initiative number 3 has to do with the organic recycling, and it's supporting and promoting the recycling and the organic programs at multifamily buildings. So this is one of the things that has been asked at the table. How can we include them? So I guess we need to, I don't know if we need to work with Twyla or with planning or with.
Without a doubt, Twyla has to be involved. She's already involved in visiting either the management or the association of some of these buildings on how to get them on board. And some of them are trying to get on board also. So I guess there's a lot more liberal research and outreach
Yeah,
kind of
so,
thing.
so at the level could be what, having the ideal thing is that to be able to, for them to implement it, but
Establishing some type of, no, not ordinance, it's not, let's say that word,
okay.
some type of,
Pilot?
Mhm.
Yeah, pilot.
or maybe even establish some type of process or procedure to help the multi-family buildings come on board with the program.
Would Beer Can have something for that? We know, they do all the city organics right now.
I think it's more like logistics within
The
within the building.
Yeah.
And the management, and then getting people to buy in and,
So I guess it's not one size fits all. right?
No.
yeah.
See, currently, the problem is that the management company of the building would have to ask a company to bring the bin, which would also, would require consulting or not the residents and having them pay for it. Or having the owners of the condos at a board meeting get together and request it to come to the building.
So all of our organic bins right now come out of our property taxes, right? Part of our city, like utility bill,
No, you pay for them.
but part of your city utility bill.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, it's on there now.
You can't opt out of it. You can opt out of having a bin, but you still pay for it, right?
Correct.
So Grace.
Why does that not happen for multi-family buildings?
It's a different, yeah, it's a different procedure than like single family homes in the city. I don't understand it either.
I'm just wondering if like.
I just know that the
building
city
and
can't get
utility
forfeit on
bill-
multifamily buildings.
So yeah,
Okay,
maybe
association
some,
dues
maybe
probably.
doing a couple of pilots,
Mhm.
to see how that works.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
Buildings
because
might be
they
named
had,
events, right?
yeah, all of them were gonna be different, probably.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you will be leading that.
Mhm.
So anybody else that wants to participate, besides Michelle and me?
This will be live again after this meeting, so everyone can sign up.
Okay. Initiative number 4 has to do with coordinating and tabling at the city events to educate the community in organic recycling and other sustainability programs of the city. So here is a little bit of the discussion we just had. So I don't know if we need to define 1 or 2 more themes we want to be promoting as part of the EDC. We can do the business, green business recognition and I don't know if we're gonna, by next year, we won't be promoting the climate action plan. It's gonna be.
Maybe specific actions within it. One thing I heard from the discussion earlier was that the leader for an initiative could table and be on point for that particular initiative and or write talking points. So those are that anyone could use, right? So those are all the other options.
Yeah, I agree that we should include more than one thing, not just recycle.
Me too. Very good.
1 or 2 more. And yeah, maybe the ideal is that having the leader there, but if the leader can't go, maybe have talking. Very well.
Grace, is there anything that prevents us from saying every commissioner should commit to attending at least one event?
Can we include it when you interview them? You have to participate.
Is there-
Nothing to stop you from putting that in there.
Is there a difference between like how we should be treating the 4th of July and open streets versus the farmers markets? It's in terms of foot traffic and the importance of them, because every single Thursday, I'm just wondering, like, are we making an impact on these? Or is the open streets type of stuff and arts, fall in the arts much more impactful, because there's a lot more people?
So I've done all of them. I've done 4th of July, I've done open streets, I've done the fair. And for the second year running, our, over at the farmer's market with the organic recycling. I can tell you, people are jumping on board just because we're trying to, answer questions or help them out on how to do it properly or how to take the fear away from it, I guess. There's people who are gonna say, no, not gonna do it, not gonna do it. And that's fine. Can't change their mind. But the ones that are like, I don't know, maybe, I can tell you they're coming on board.
So Corey, is your question more about the efficacy of the other events like 4th of July?
No, I'm not that knows. I think those probably have a huge turnout, and it probably makes sense to have as all the commission show up for those and
Yeah.
Spotlight a number of initiatives on those the big weekend events. It seems like you guys have a challenge filling out this sheet every week. I know there's certain people, myself included, where I'm just not confident I'll ever be able to serve on like a Thursday from 3 to 7.
Okay.
So that's where I'm struggling to figure out, like, how do we not put so much pressure on the few of you that are able to cover this, find other alternatives through schools and whatnot to help out.
Unfortunately, last year, this year, everything changed. So we didn't have a lot of the events. But usually there'll be a tent and we share with some other organization or some other committee or even with some staff. And we talk about everything we can. But, obviously weekends are a lot more accessible for everybody. And And all I'm asking is, if you have time on Thursday, come show up, whatever time, it's fine. But if there are gonna be other events next year, hopefully, right? Then I think we'll make a commitment to show up. For whatever amount of time again, right?
I don't walk in parades, so you know.
Hmm?
I don't walk in parades.
You don't walk in parade?
I've done the parade. I've done the parade.
So you walk-
Parade?
Yeah.
You thought you were table.
Oh, I walked the parade behind Melissa France and holding the EEC banner. And then I went to the booth.
So I don't do parades, just so you all know.
So.
Walk your shell, like never been.
I understand, I understand both of you, like, yeah, 3 to 7, it's a lot, like, in a weekday, so just to try maybe to find a time to be these ones, and it don't have to be 4 hours, maybe a couple of hours or an hour.
Yeah, maybe split shift, like, you know, you
Yeah,
can't do the whole.
I was there on a split a shift because I couldn't be the 4 hours, so.
Yeah.
We'll feel free to do that.
One thing I'll mention is I do understand from Twyla that she will continue to table in 2022, promoting organics specifically. That will be part of her staff work plan. So the infrastructure will be there for EEC to partner and participate.
Yeah, but one of the things we were, one in the mail, we were discussing is that as long as we're only the same or in one, I think we should stick with 12 in the same team. We managed to bring more people, then maybe not even that commission, maybe other volunteers as the ones we found that helped you today.
Yeah.
Maybe then we can try to think of an additional team. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think if Twyla is gonna be there, then I don't think we need to worry about
Yeah,
the organic.
exactly.
Yeah, so now we can, that allows us to do other things, or if we have other people, we can stand by the bins.
You can add some bins to her tent.
Yeah, I swear I'm gonna bring my own ding bin and I'll bring it home.
Right.
It's gonna have 9.
Right.
Okay, perfect. So then,
Well, I think if we're gonna promote something worthwhile at that event, you almost have to pick like one thing and stick with it, right? So if we're gonna promote the organics program, I think if we try to promote 2 key things, whatever it might be, I think you lose focus.
Well, I think that organics is just like gonna be that ongoing thing that. So I think with the organics we can, because that's like Twyla's thing and she can
Sure.
focus on it, and then it gives us a table, because we can have 2. What I find is that I think there's a lot of residents that don't know all the amazing things that we are doing. Granted, we've got a lot to do still, but like the stuff that Jessica's doing is amazing. And like the tour that we took of Braemar was amazing. And I don't think anybody knows that what the city, like, again, I don't think anybody knows is that we have a pollinator policy. Like, and I think that's unfortunate, because I think if more people know what the city is doing, they might have more of an inclination to maybe themselves do it. So I feel like, part of this is, getting the word out.
Mhm.
And I just think having, like, I would love to have just a sheet that has all the businesses that are green recognized. I mean, I think everybody walking by there should, that's one way to promote those 12 businesses,
so what do you think about Twyla has this banner in the back that says organic. So maybe can we have one that says EEC?
Yes.
EEC.
I have a banner and a tablecloth that both say.
Then I guess that maybe we can have some talking points, not in all the initiatives, maybe the pollinators, the green business, the energy squad, I'm thinking of those 3. And maybe if somebody come by and ask you, so what does the Energy and Environment Commission do? So maybe we can say, oh, look, this thing, I get, just like try to open the discussion and inform maybe nobody comes and asks for anything, right? But that's be an option.
I'd say, like, it seems like we're just trying to spark interest in any number of different topics. So like just having a quick reference to any number of topics that we want.
like,
Well,
did you know your
If someone
city?
walks by, they'll see,
Right.
oh, green businesses.
Yeah.
Like to learn more, or oh, pollinators, I'd like to learn more.
Yeah.
So like hitting on a few different ones could be. Good way.
Maybe we can take that one.
Yeah, definitely. definitely.
Maybe I missed it. What did you say about the climate action plan in terms of initiatives for 2022?
In
Like
terms of, well, I understand it's gonna be approved by the end of the year.
the
So-
plan, right?
Yeah, the plan. So then we will have around 9 subsectors with around, I don't know, maybe 20 actions each of them. So I don't think it will be difficult for us to follow up all of them. So that's why we decided to focus on
Right.
the trees and green space.
Right. No, I guess right or wrong, to me, like climate change is about as hot a topic as you can have, right? So the question is coming out of the climate action plan, if we can educate people that A, it's in place and B, this is what we can do. I think to me, it's just as equal, if not more important, to like, what do the citizens of Edina do to help the city with
Oh, yeah, you
implement
will
the climate action?
put it in the education in the table. I mean,
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, I was referring to the initiative one, like following up. With the-
okay,
The tabling, we can include the climate action.
got it.
So the following one is initiative number 5, which has to do with communication. It's written like study and report on identifying best practices, resources, and mechanisms that can help in a better communication of the environmental programs taking place in the city. So this one, it's understood not as tabling, but as trying to identify how can we improve our communication. So at the beginning, I put it in the same as tabling, and Grace suggests that we should be more like a separate initiative, because it's more like trying to identify which practices are out there and trying to use them. But, well, so far it doesn't have a lead, so I don't know if we.
I'll lead it.
Just you want to lead it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anybody wants to support?
I can support. I'll support you.
Thank you. So then the deliverable,
I signed up for it.
okay, the deliverables will be a report
Huh?
for that one. Okay. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by a report, but I'm thinking maybe a report, a plan, like what do we do?
Yeah, the thing is, I understand that for each initiative, you need to define which type of consult charge is gonna happen. It's gonna be a study and report, review and comment, review and recommend, or review and decide. So I guess since you're gonna do looking for best practices, I guess you should do a report. Maybe do a review and recommend. Like, all review and recommend. Yeah.
We could use a savvy high schooler on this too.
I can.
Probably a social media aspect to it.
Sorry.
It probably depends a little bit. So the deliver probably depends on your scope. If you're thinking mostly about EDC, then it's probably review and recommend, because this body can decide and say, yes, we want to do this on. If it's study and report on, or if it's city staff work, then it will need to flow through council, and that would mean that you would make a report to council and say, you think the city should change its communication practices in XYZ ways. And council says, yes, staff should do this. So that's, I think, the main difference here.
But this is more for us, right? Or are you thinking more?
I don't know.
For the city?
I'm thinking, no, I don't know. I was thinking that we should figure out how we're going to create awareness and education for what we do and all these great initiatives, right?
This is the megaphone around all the other initiatives. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
So ultimately, at the end of the day, when is this due?
End of 2022.
Oh, okay.
We don't-
No, I was thinking like at the end of the day, we should have a calendar of all of our activities, so you can, like any other
Yeah, you.
marketing plan, you know, you want to be able to.
There's a completion target date, but you can put the end.
So maybe this would be like, we figure out what we want to do and then figure out. So for 2023, what the actual implementation plan might be. Okay.
So.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is just kind of figuring out what other
No,
communities do.
we still have time to redefine it, so maybe.
Yeah.
A bit more for next.
Okay. Yeah.
So you are happy with the way it's written so far?
You can find it.
I would, you know, create awareness and perhaps engagement with key initiatives or something like that. End of the day, we want people to take action on what we're doing. CAP or organics or something. So there's kind of two parts to it, right? You want to create awareness and you want to change behavior. So they kind of go hand in hand, but kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay. Now, number 6 has to do with the trash hauling. And it's a study and report on case studies and options to have organized trash collection in the city of Edina.
John was really excited about that one last time.
Yeah, so, yeah, he said he wants to lead it, so.
Yeah, and I'll comment on two things. One, this is what the ETC has on its plan this year. So it would be, so this text should be updated and John can weigh in on that, or whoever can weigh in on.
No, but I think this was updated, right? This is updated,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll make sure this is up to date.
Yeah, because I think you mentioned about doing some case studies and. What happened with the report today on that? That was one last right? So what happened with the report, Chris? Do you know anything?
Yeah.
Organized trash hauling, sounds like you get the mob involved.
So the ETC is supposed to finalize their report soon. This is what I understand from the staff liaison from the ETC. It should be updated or finalized on their end soon, and then it comes to us, the EDC, for comment before it goes to council. From what I understand is the ETC would happily pass this off to the EDC next year.
Does that mean?
Is that resolving it or?
Yeah.
I can't comment on that.
I would say no.
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, right.
There you go.
So do we need to see
Dig
the
in.
report before we finalize?
Done.
Well, that's the idea. To the liaison for ETC.
Okay.
Is that it would be really great to see that report so we can know what the ETC is building on.
That's why I'm kind of skeptical of this one. Because I would love just to go through, but I don't know if there's enough meat on the bone for there to go after this initiative.
You know, I think there's a will. We've had a lot of council members and the mayor, I don't know if the mayor's mentioned it, but it's come up more. So I think there's more willingness to, well, they've said it out loud and before that was like a taboo word. So I wouldn't be afraid of doing this and going down the hall, but I think, so if when did you say we would get that report?
Well, I hope in time to discuss it at your next meeting.
Okay.
That's ideal.
So then let's say we don't hear from them, what?
Then my suggestion is to push it forward and have council squash it rather than, if the EEC wants to work on it, propose it.
Okay.
Because I think it's different what they did to what we want to do.
Yeah, I think they're like gathering information on how, they're doing a review of other cities, basically.
Who is, I'm sorry?
The transportation committee this year.
Well, that's just, I'm just
Commission.
wondering, like, where does this best reside?
Well, that was the big question last time and the council directed it to the transportation commission.
So if they're doing a report, then is there a way that, can we then maybe, well, I guess it depends on what the report says, because I was thinking, we then push it to like a recommend, not a recommend, but the next level?
Yeah, so they're doing a study and report this year. So EEC, the next step would be a
Oh, I
review and recommend,
Okay.
or, yeah, review and then recommend, sorry.
Okay,
Um,
sorry, I didn't see
so-
that.
No, but that's this year.
Review and recommend, so this year is study and report. So the Transportation Commission just is writing a report to council. That does not contain a recommendation,
Okay, so then what
So
next?
then we will review it. Okay.
because they want feedback from council first.
Are they gonna make this an initiative for them? Sure again.
I don't think so. I think that I think the idea is that they would like it to be taken up by another body.
Okay. Okay, so that makes, I
It's
understand.
kind of weird.
Yeah,
Me.
like it's not
Like-
capable, so they can.
I don't know.
Or maybe they have other initiatives that more, like it doesn't fit
I think it's more of a
transportation at that point.
issue, yeah, but yeah, I honestly can't comment.
Could we have somebody come to one of our meetings and give us an update? Give a commission?
Potentially. I can ask the staff liaison about that.
Right, the staff liaison.
Well, if they have a lot of
At
hard
least
passion for the
they're-
initiative, I would hate to step on their toes
Yeah,
and be, you know, I
But it's a
don't
lot of
know.
us,
I would, man, if I did all the background work, I wouldn't want to turn it over to somebody else to come up with a plan.
But it was supposed to be a jointly work, that's the.
I see.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's-
again, you know, they might have some other things on their work plan that are more important that they want to work on where, you
We
know,
have nothing
it doesn't
better
really
to do, let's
fit.
pick it up.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I don't know, how you know, they probably did the study on like impact on roads and maybe,
Here?
No, I'm not trying to be difficult, but.
oh, it's good to bring up.
I like the idea of having them come talk to us
sure.
and give us their gut feel of whether or not this is achievable and worth us taking on. Or spinning the wheels.
But somebody did it, no? Richfield or who did it? St. Paul?
St. Paul, Bloomington,
They did.
Richfield did it
Rich, did
in
Richfield?
a way that's been interesting. They like divided it in quadrants.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's what-
that's one of the solutions that I've been thinking.
Yeah, Bloomington did the same thing too. But where does that put our timing?
So in all likelihood, you will receive some sort of update from the Transportation Commission at your September meeting. This could be an actual copy of the report to review and comment on. It could be an individual from the commission or the staff liaison coming and talking. They might also just prefer to submit their own little memo. So, but you'll hear from them in September,
Okay.
at which point that can inform,
Then,
you can, even at that September just later in that meeting, you can say, okay, we want to move forward with this, or we don't. The other option is that Chair Martinez could call a special meeting to finalize the work plan if necessary.
That's powerful.
So are you trying to make them come in the September meeting to hear from them?
That's what I'll ask for.
Okay, you're asking.
Yeah.
You can't make her come, you can
Yeah. I can request a better.
Sorry.
Okay.
And chairs from different commissions talk outside, there's a little like, like,
It's one of those, like, the city doesn't encourage it, but
Okay.
obviously we can't stop it, and so.
Well, that'd be good.
But I'll start with the formal request for someone to come and talk, especially if they will have the report ready. It would be really great to have someone add context, but either way, I'll make the request.
what would be their liaison, like yourself?
Andrew Scipione, he is our transportation planner. Yeah.
And
So
so
it
then,
could be him, it could be the transportation chair, it could be any.
so then the decisions we would make after hearing them is like, we move on, we continue with that, then determine, oh, well, then it would go to review and recommend, or take it off our plan.
Yeah,
Any of
so
those
like
big-
yes or no, and then what would it look like if
Okay.
yes?
And that we have enough time to hopefully put that in. Otherwise, we put another meeting in.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Be here all night, Michelle. You got all the time in the world.
Well, where else would I want to be besides home having a
Yeah,
beer?
don't, we can't do much about this one.
Yeah.
Let's move to it.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something, Rayako?
It's just like the same names keep coming over and over and over again. In leading or supporting. Where are the rest of all of the commissioners?
No, John, It's gonna be,
Yeah, John is there.
you know, Rajiv, we're not sure if he's coming back. And Kasha,
yeah, I don't see Ukasha, I don't see Irene.
Do we replace commissioners mid-year if they're not?
We can.
but they need to be absent 3 times in a row.
Mhm. Yes, there are attendance rules,
Has anybody been absent 3 times in a row?
not yet.
We cannot do that.
But even if you're not absent 3 times in a row, if you don't meet a specific amount of meetings throughout the year, you can also be
You cannot miss.
given a thank you note.
Yeah, you cannot miss more than 3 total in a year. And they,
2 in a row.
Then 2 in a row. Okay, so maybe
you can miss 3, you can miss 3.
Yeah. Doesn't have.
So they don't
And,
do,
but if they're in a row, then that's automatic.
if they're not, it doesn't matter. But if they have missed 3 and they're not in a row, what do we do? Like,
Then they cannot miss a 4th. So you have to be in attendance of 75% of the year.
should we give them notice? Shall I-
Yes, so after tonight, for instance, the chair will reach out to any commissioners who are on that edge and say, you're on the edge. What do you want to do? And they may say, oh, I'll be here the rest of it. Or they might say, no, I want to leave, I want to go ahead and depart. And then our community engagement lead would come in and help us fill that position.
I'm less concerned that they're missing up, that they,
Yeah,
they can miss a meeting down there, but you have to at least sign up and be part of it.
You're never gonna be in the
You
commission.
can still do a lot of
You need to
work
be
outside of this meeting,
yeah.
right?
So
So,
we're missing 3 right now?
3 tonight, yeah.
Okay,
John's
so
usually very active.
Yeah.
initiative number 7, it's
Okay,
the
yeah,
one we
The 3.
yeah, with number 1. And then initiative number 8, it has to do with the plastic bag policy. So it's revise and update the report done in 2017 on possible recommendation for the plastic bag ordinance. So that will be a review and recommend. And it's being led by Michelle, who is an expert in waste now.
that's righty.
So John, Corey, and Tom are going to be participating. And then we have initiative number 9, which has to do with stormwater pollution management.
Did we just get that report?
I just did that because it was with the street sweeping thing that
Oh,
you
right.
talked about, and I thought about trying to figure out how to
Kind of
interpret
combine,
that.
yeah. Oh, a little tidbit on street sweeping from Carolyn. It was recommended, but it takes 10 additional people to do an additional street sweeping. So there's a will, like, that is one of the recommendations in the staff, but they have to come up with 10 additional
Sure.
hour or I think she's talking people.
One that has no leaders.
So that one.
How many additional full-time employees, Michelle? Is that right?
I don't know if it was full. Hang on, I'm gonna look at my notes.
During the timeframe of this.
Of the street sweeping, yes.
So Terry, you had sent me a second stormwater initiative.
Yes.
Do you mind talking the commission through that one and this one and how they're similar or different?
Well, and then the presentation tonight was kind of where I was thinking about going, but I was thinking about taking into your idea about the street sweeping and see what things can be done to help to either inform residents of ways that they can do, things that they can do at their property to help keep residue and crap getting into the stormwater system.
Just a thought here. So the communications plan will have topics that we think should be spotlighted from time to time, right? There might be certain things that might be initiatives here, but maybe it's as simple as, hey, we want to send out a social media post or a tweet one time during the year on that topic. I don't necessarily know if we need an initiative for those versus just building them into our communication, right? So I don't know where we maybe start to track some of those things of like, do we want a message that goes out about not overspending or the no mow May? Just plan for those things through communications plan. We cover 20 different initiatives over the course of the year just through individual social media posts without putting an initiative behind every single thing.
Well, I just will say in my, just understanding this, you guys, when I walked in here, everybody has all these initiatives going, they're halfway down the pipe, and I have no idea what it is you're talking about as far as how to develop an initiative. So, and it just seems like you guys are already halfway through half of them, so I don't even know. So I was just trying to figure out what my skill set would be that could be of some benefit. Because, you know, you guys are already through with the organic to-go packages, but I was trying to figure out something that I could do where I could really have use.
Completely agree.
Yeah, but I think what she's proposing is more than only communicating, right?
It's figuring out what we can do, you know, what is easy to do for citizens, for the city, for people. And I think one councilman at the last meeting said something about how he didn't even realize just by taking his gutter discharge and redirecting it, what a difference that made. And I was kind of thinking along that line and seeing what maybe it's not street sweeping, but maybe it's keeping your own property free of residue and disposing of it in a different way than just sweeping it out into the street, which everybody does. You know, my neighbor sticks half of his crap right in the creek.
So can we think about like maybe a pilot, like the one we want to do with the multi-companies? I don't know, trying to maybe choose a neighborhood and
Oh, okay.
like, I don't know, maybe to do it more like them just communicating, maybe trying to do a pilot and see if we can. Oh, it has to imply communication, but
Sure.
like, I mean,
Like how the Morningside, they did this little thing in Morningside, it'd be the same kind of thing, but in a different neighborhood. Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, like I'm kind of trying to think of like, is there more to tie to, because I think also with that whole, there's a lot of overlapping things too, like I'm trying to think
So,
of,
so why do they need more people to do additional,
why do they need?
when more people?
I'm looking at my notes and they're very sparse. I have street sweeping equals should do more, equals need 10 more.
Okay.
And then I have employees. And then we'll take money.
I think it's probably just time. I can't say for sure, but the street sweepers go like 2 miles an hour or something. They're extraordinarily slow, which is, they're a huge gas guzzler, but that also means it's just man hours.
Yeah,
It's just.
I think that's-
And then it's gotta be somebody who provides the fuel, there's another who mans the machine, someone who.
Well, they have to bring it
makes the
somewhere.
machine.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
They have to- You know, they have to do it during low traffic times. So I think it's just people, but
And I think a consult, so they
We
must,
looked into that.
I have,
We looked into electric mowers, electricity,
That's what-
electric, everything. We don't have money.
she did say a consultant made that recommendation, so,
there could be a report to look at.
Leisha Schaefer is another name of her town.
Although apparently Eden Prairie does have money to have Teslas on their police force.
No, I wouldn't try.
Giant Roombas.
How about that, huh?
So Terry, on stormwater, I want to make sure that I'm capturing the notes accurately here.
Okay.
You want to focus on keeping debris out of the stormwater system, is
Yes.
that right?
Yes. Okay. Debris and, deciduous or just anything, not deciduous with deleterious materials out of the stormwater system.
And so things like adopt the drain that we saw today, that's interesting to you, but maybe it doesn't go far enough.
Well, the adopt a drain is once it gets to the drain, and so it would be what you could do to keep it from getting to the drain. Pesticide use, just throwing that out there. And I'm sorry to go back to the street sweeping, but maybe it's just not necessarily doing all the streets, but maybe just parking lots, city-owned parking lots, parking ramps.
Maybe it's because we can't have, go look at the streets, so it's more important to sure it doesn't get to that point. Because it's really focused on what we can do at that beginning and then, I think like mowing and switching over, turf to pollinators, so you don't even have to mow. I think there's a lot that can be wrapped in that, which also ties into the first one too, but I think it all can overlap.
Well, like they did that around, is that Lake Harvey, where they put in that buffer zone.
Yeah.
So it didn't get to that, things like that. I mean, I don't know if I'm overlapping something the city's already done and doesn't even make sense, but maybe the homeowner could do something in their own yard that's along that line to help keep it from getting to the street.
So one thing I think will be helpful is I'll try to figure out what the consulting report is that
Yeah.
Councilmember Jackson mentions
Yeah.
and share that with the EEC so that you're up to speed with what's been studied, what's been considered so far, and that can help refine this action.
And I apologize now if I got that a little bit wrong, Grace, and you asked about it and someone's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's okay. We'll figure it out.
And then maybe don't
Okay.
use Carolyn Jackson's name. I got wrong.
Okay, so that just leaves us with. Yeah. Okay. That just leaves us with initiative 10.
Just to the sheet.
I can do that. That's fine. Is it, I'm assuming we have points of contact for a number of neighboring cities and stuff. Is this right?
Yep.
Yeah. John, I can do it.
Headaches and such sugar.
Yeah.
You hate ordering it?
I prefer to not walk up something. So
Sure.
it's like that. Sugar.
Wanted for all one. I guess we need to put Corey in contact with Sean, right?
So
We need to put you in contact with Sean Rodetsky, the one that coordinates the resilient cities.
Yeah, Resilient Cities Collaborative, and that would be up to you if you wanted to work through an existing but informal network, or do kind of one-on-ones.
Okay. Can you talk to you about that?
Yep.
What is RCC?
They are called the Resilient Communities Collaborative, is what
Oh, okay.
RCC stands for, and they facilitated bringing the county commissioner to come and talk to the EEC about the Hennepin County Climate Action Plan earlier this
Oh.
year. And that's kind, they're conveners, they convene and connect.
It's a no.
It might just be one guy.
so one man up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has a very good network with all the commissioners.
Okay.
Cities. Maybe
Are
we
there
just talk with
structured
him
programs or
and
events?
decide. You
great
just talk with
for
him and
you
decide.
to Coordinate with
That's the
other
way you wanna-
sustainability managers.
There, I do have many informal networks
Yeah.
to participate in, and there is some kind of topical, formal structures around better, Clean Cars Minnesota or better buildings, more advocacy rather than just passive knowledge exchange. But yes, they are out there.
Excellent.
So I guess that's the last one, right? So we have 9 now. So 10?
We have 9. The 7 and 1 will be smashed, yeah.
So I think it's a good number.
Yeah.
Maybe if Rajesh and Kasha come back, that we can maybe let somebody and the other line. Somebody can. Lead one. Or maybe they can just be supporting the work.
Yeah.
The initiatives. That was good. So for the next meeting, Grace, what do we need to do? Like, maybe each leader, we did finally with more? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, so I'll send out an updated Google Doc with all of the changes that we have discussed so far. And we'll invite the leaders to refine the action text. And then in September, the EEC can finalize and agree that this is what you want to put forward to the council.
Okay, so I'm gonna plan.
Okay, perfect. Good. So with that, we finish the 2022 work plan discussion. And the next item, it's item number 8, which is chair and members' comments. So I do have some comment to do. So I'm going to read so I don't forget it. So I know today is Anna and Peter last day in the commission. And I just want to thank you, both of you, for your time and your commitment. I know, Peter, that this was your first year and that you were very active with the Green Business Recognition Program and the to-go packaging, bringing very good new ideas to the discussion. So thank you. Anna, I know you were here for 2 years, and I know you were part, the initiatives that you were involved. I am very glad that you were part of the climate action planning team, since I know that was the reason you applied for that commission. So I just want to wish both of you an unforgettable senior year, because I know it's your last year. Wish you the best of luck with the application process, because I know you're involved in that. And you're gonna be greatly missed, both of you. So thank you. So I don't know if any other commissioners want to say.
Of course, I have to say that both of you were on both of my committees and were always present and always reflecting back, always giving me input, which has been invaluable. I think I've incorporated most of the stuff that you guys brought. And that's why I can't believe I forgot to send you the application, because this percentage thing was Peter's idea, and we'll see how it works out. But yeah, you guys were not just people sitting in the room, you were very active, and I just cannot tell you how appreciative I am of all the work you've done. I mean, especially with all the other stuff you guys have going on. And I wish you guys a actual somewhat normal senior year, if that's possible.
Thank you.
But thank you so much, and looking forward to see what you guys do with the environment for all of us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I know that you participated at some of the events and things that I did. But when you were there, you definitely, were there. Other than that, I don't have children. But if you guys are the future's gonna hold, then I don't think we're in a bad spot. So.
And keep us posted. Let us know what you're up to. Come by the farmer's market, say hi. All the good stuff. We want to know, and we want to keep supporting you, so.
Send us more people like you guys.
Do we have students lined up for it?
So I guess the next item is.
So I just want to say, yes, I love being a part of the commission and I love working with all of you. It was really inspiring to actually be a part of a group of people who's very motivated to do whatever they can to protect the environment. And I mean, coming up with great ideas on how to do it, even at different scale and levels and in different ways. But I really love being a part of the commission. So thank you guys for letting me participate in all of your groups and letting me help out.
Peter, do you want to say
Yeah. Kind of like a top hat, but yeah, just thanks everyone for, Michelle, you led a lot of the stuff I was working with, and that was very helpful. I definitely wouldn't have been able to manage it. So any way I could help was definitely very, very fun. It was great to just feel like I was doing something and we actually got some stuff done. It's great to see the green business or the to-go packaging actually being sent to council. So yeah, thanks everyone for having me.
You don't see all the smiles behind the man. Everyone's smiling.
But we're all smiling.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. So I don't know, Grace, if the next item is yours, staff comments.
Just a couple things from me. We do have 2 new student commissioners joining us beginning next month. Ava Shumway and Subhash Rayat. So they'll be with us for a year, and then student commissioner terms are 1 year. A note on our next meeting. So we will continue to meet in person. We will move to a larger room. We will be masked. So we will be meeting at Public Works. You'll get a new invitation next soon. Everyone will mask. A couple notes on public meetings broadly. City council work sessions and regular commission meetings. Everyone will be in person. We will no longer live stream starting in September. Attendance, we were kind of touching on this before, attendance for commissions. We're having conversations with council right now about how to manage if there is, if someone needs to isolate because of a COVID exposure, if they contract COVID, and how that interacts with attendance, since we will no longer have the remote option starting in September. So stay tuned, I'll let you know, but the big takeaways are masks are staying in September. We'll move to a larger room. You'll know where that is. And that's it from me. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Grace. So the next item is the adjournment. So I don't know if somebody wants. I haven't.
Second.
So.
Second. Don't waste any time. Second.
Well, thank you, everybody, for your time. It was a
Thank
really
you.
productive meeting.
Yep.
Oh, please take cookies and or.
They were